Good morning, everyone.
Hello.
Morning, Muthu.
Good morning, Muthu, Jonas, and Los.
Hi. Hello.
Hello, everyone.
Give it a few more minutes. I know, I think India has some holiday today, so Bharat will not join from HP.
Hi guys, Rafał joined from Intel. Yeah, you're right, Jonas. The Bharat won't join. He told us yesterday they had a holiday in India today.
Yeah.
Was Bob going to join? I think there was some question about the ONAP session for next week's event. Is that?
Yeah, I saw that from Alex. I don't
Oh, out.
know.
Yeah. Okay.
I can see if Bob is available and let you know.
Um, I guess I guess this was brought up as good to introduce ODIM to ONAP type of an approach. That seems to be where Alex is not convinced. I don't personally don't see any issues with it, but it would be good if he could show up.
Yeah.
But it's early for him. It's 6 o'clock California, I guess. Are where are you based, Luis? Are you also in
I'm
California?
in East Coast, New
Oh,
Jersey, just outside of New York. Yeah, it's
yeah,
9 o'clock for me. Yeah.
good. So you have your
Yeah.
coffee. You start thinking about lunch soon, huh?
Well, I haven't had breakfast yet, but that's what I plan on as soon as we're done here.
Yeah, yeah. I saw those slots, and I think that's a good flow. The only thing I had some concern with was, well, actually, I think it's all good. So it's spread out and all that. So I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
We also
Yeah.
got,
The only thing.
yeah, go ahead.
Nope. Sorry. No, you go.
And we also had the demo in the morning, which I think is good because our engineering team is in India, right? So
Yeah, we've got. I set it up so that we can do ODIM release one, just 30 minutes before the break, and then right after the break, we come in with the build and the run, the demo. So we can sort of have people, just let them know that there's a 30-minute break, and as soon as the break is over, we'll come right back with the and run a demo. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So hopefully that works. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, well,
So yeah, so the only real question is, do we remove the ONAP session on February 4 and rely on the introduction session on February 2 as the as the sort of the as much as we can get the ONAP folks there type of thing.
yeah, that's fine with me. I guess we don't have Alex here and we don't have Joe's, so these are the guys who are giving the own up one. So the question is then, would Joe's help out with the intro for the ODIM track, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I huh. Perhaps I can ping Joe's on Slack, but it would be good to also get Alex in here. But so perhaps we try to sort this today by email then. What are your thoughts, Louis?
Oh, my thoughts is if we have to, if we could keep it on there and that's fine, and if we remove it, I'm fine with that. We'll just take it off the calendar, and then we just need to see how we can get the ONAP folks onto the introduction session on Feb 2. I don't know how we can position it so we can get some ONAP folks on there, or more ONAP folks anyway.
Yeah, yeah. We let's see if we can get Alex on Slack or something when he wakes up here, when he logs on,
Okay.
sort it out. And I think Joe's is here as well. I just don't find him right now. Can I search Joe's? Yep, I have chatted with him before. Yeah, he's here as well. So I'll try to get them all on Slack. Um, oh, Alex is here. Very good.
Oh, there we go. Yeah,
So do we
perfect.
take 5 minutes and sort this out then? Alex, we're talking about the own app slot that you were raising some concerns.
Yeah, I just, I never, to be honest, I mean, I wasn't there when you guys made the decision to have a special slot, but my fear is that it's going to go. I mean, having worked in ONAP before and having worked with the folks that have controlling interest in ONAP, unless we have something concrete to tell them, um, they're gonna just politely smile, right? Just like everybody else. I mean, it's open source, and so code is king. And when we have something concrete to talk to them about, then we should, for sure. But the use cases that, so I sent an email yesterday to a few folks, and mostly I was just trying to understand how we arrived at the decision that we need a separate introduction for ONAP. And
So
it's not
is
it's
a
not clear
release?
to me how it's going to be different from the general session that we're doing, and also I'm not sure that the use cases that we originally proposed an ONAP that had to do with composable infrastructure are still valid, or anyone has any interest in them today. And
But
so,
so you bring up a lot of stuff. Do we have anything concrete? Well, we have a new release, the only
yeah,
release.
but again, we have a new release. But remember, ONAP does not care about physical infrastructure. Their abstraction layer is above different VIMs, where a Vim is Amazon, Azure, VMware, KVM environments, QMU, all these different virtualization public cloud environments. They expect that the communication between with the physical platforms will be handled by the VIMs. And if you look at the CNTT diagram, that's exactly what's reflected there. Okay. The only reason why ONAP might be interested in in something that we're doing is from the dynamic infrastructure perspective, right? This is why we proposed the composable disaggregated infrastructure work in ONAP 2 years ago. And the reason why they would be interested is because quite often when they have to deploy services, they may not want to pre-build a whole bunch of, Kubernetes instances or OpenStack instances. They may want to shift resources between the two, repurpose resources, reconfigure resources as the service orchestration takes place.
So
And
Alex, yeah, so given all that, then do you think that ODIM builds on the work that you did for
well,
that?
no. ODIM eventually provides a composition service, which we then can take to ONAP and say, look, if you're interested in dynamic infrastructure, if you're interested in dynamic resource, quote unquote, right sizing and sharing on the edge, if you're interested in these things, I think you should work with us. Or we think we should work with it. You should work with us.
Okay.
Right. So what I don't want to do is say, well, we've got ONAP, we're planning to do a composition service, but we've got nothing yet. And, the conversation is going to go likely the way of, okay, well, when you have something, come back and talk to us.
Well, do they want to give input to the composition services at this point? Because not only are we thinking about putting it in place, but the definition of it is also actually being put together right now.
Well, so that's a good question, but I'm not sure that a general introduction section to ODIM is a way of obtaining that information. Maybe, I don't know. So maybe it shouldn't be an introduction to ODIM. Maybe it should be possible use cases that we want to explore with ONAP.
Yeah.
Right. So we refocus it on specific use cases that we believe to be of value to them, and then we can ask for exactly what you, Martin, suggested: input, collaboration that way. I'm just scared that, we're going to go in and say how great ODIM is, and they're not going to really care until there's something concrete. And making it concrete in that session might be the way to go.
I completely agree. I think if we could do that and focus on what their interest would be, and if that's around composition, then we need to present that story to them. So yeah.
So a lot of those use cases that are on the ONAP project page that I wrote were derived from conversations with Verizon, Orange, and I think there was even some input from IBM, right? So these are big companies that have good market presence. So they were all concerned with being able to dynamically repurpose, share, and reconfigure resources on the edge. And that's where composable infrastructure shines.
So what do we rename should we rename the
I would maybe rename the session a little bit and say possible synergies between ONAP and ODIM. And then talk about the composition services or the capabilities that we're baking into Redfish and what we're doing in ODIM, and maybe just say, look, let's not even mention that project. Let's just kind of basically pose the use case kind of epics that we defined originally, just kind of list those out and talk about what benefits composition has, and see if they would be interested. There's a lot of work to do there, guys, just so you know.
Should we call it something more specific?
Yeah, that's what I said.
Infrastructure with ODIM or something.
Call it possibly synergies between ODIM and ONAP. And
that's vague, right?
Well,
if we want to get to the point, we could say compose the infrastructure with ODIM or
something. We can say, or orchestrating composable infrastructure with ODIM, something like that, because ONAP is an orchestrator.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, that works too.
No, I like this.
Okay, yeah.
I'm all for making it specific to him, right? And I mean, you've got an insider view as to what is it that they're going to be interested in, and I think building on the stuff that you did a little while ago, where ODIM could help with some of that, is definitely not a bad thing. So yeah.
There's another area too, which is really maybe a little bit more, I want to say science fiction, but would require additional exploration. But being able to dynamically compose PNFs.
Okay.
So that's something that there was a side conversation I remember 2 years ago with Nokia, and they've been driving the PNF integration into ONAP, and one of the ideas we had was, okay, if we were to PNFs are static by the way they are today. And if there's a way to virtualize them, is there in hardware, right? Or virtualize them, quote unquote, by composing them on demand when needed, and perhaps configuring them in ways that are, VNF and network service specific, right? That may be of value too, but we didn't talk much about that. That's a completely different realm that, potentially we could mention, right? But anyway, I think it's all going to boil down to one thing: who's going to work on this project, eventually. And if, last time the reason it stalled is because everybody said good idea, but there were not, enough resources to work on this project because there were higher priority items. Okay, so ONAP has a running list of requirements and use cases, and they prioritize them for each release. And there will be a session actually in this virtual forum to do that again. And so, when push comes to shove, core hardening related activities or core orchestration related activities are, higher priority than trying to do composable infrastructure integration. Just giving you guys a sense of how they work. And, Louis, you chime in, you know how that project works as well. It's all based on priorities and core and participant interest.
That is true, and at some point we'll have to get on their roadmap. But I think we have to start introducing that probably as early as we can. Yep. But I just have two thoughts on this. So, updating, I have it up on the screen, the introduction for ONAP. We need to, and I'm fine with making adjustments. I do have a couple of questions. Bob Monkman sent an email out last night to some of us LFN folks saying that there was a meeting today to discuss it. Is there another? I was assuming it was this call.
I think.
Okay, but Bob's not on it. So yeah, that was that's why. Okay.
Bob has some CNTT Aniket event today or something. I think he said he won't be able to make it here.
Okay. So if he's aligned, that's all good. And the second thing is this page here for the event is locked because we're scheduling the sessions. If somebody can send me an updated abstract, let me just highlight it. So if someone can send me the abstract of what we want to cover, pretty much just this stuff that's highlighted. Just whatever title you want to use, I jotted a couple of them down that you had said, and a description of what you want to cover.
Can you take that, Alex?
Yep.
I could. I just.
You're presenting, right? So
no, I'm not presenting this. No.
You're not presenting the.
Jose is the one who is driving this topic. So, I
think we need him on before we take decisions here.
Yeah.
Either that, or we change the topic leader.
Is Jose on the call?
No.
I thought you guys were going to do it together, but perhaps that was the other session then.
Well, so basically when he contacted me yesterday and I started thinking of what we're going to say to ODIM to ONAP that would be different from the general session we're already doing. And I couldn't come up with anything. So I sent that email largely because I wanted to get feedback on my thinking, and I didn't get much except from Bob. Okay. So I think he can still do it, and I think AMI is a good candidate to do it because they're going to be the ones building the composition service or leading that work. So I don't know if we need to change the lead. I think we just need to pivot the conversation to some specific use cases that we want to explore with them in that session.
Well, I think if you're not running the session and Joe's are and he's not here, I would request that we get him involved before we make any changes.
Yeah, of course.
I'll just ping them on Slack. I don't know, Mutu, if you have a way of getting hold of him or.
Yes, Jonas. I just pinged him in Teams. It looks like he's away.
Yeah. So let's leave this for now and see if we can get Joe's back then, and perhaps get him up to speed and see what we want to do here. I personally like it that we we present a topic to them that is of interest. That would be
or at least we'll know if it's of interest, right? It could be that they want to do something else, or maybe they lost interest, but at least we would know.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I think we had a session today with the composition service discussions because we had some feedback from DMTF and we, So, Musu, are you ready to talk about this or?
Yes, Jonas. So combustion service based on the inputs, we are working on the proposal again with the new inputs. Our major challenge is about how to build the resource blocks because as you guys are aware that the resource blocks need to be built like internally within the composition service. So our idea is to have a kind of data collection engine within the composition service that periodically collects, talk to ODIM and collect the information and build the resource blocks accordingly. The challenge here is how will you how can we identify the the interconnectivity of the resources? That is one point we need to discuss. Anyway, compute will have processor and memory and network interfaces, mostly local storage. If there are any external resources needed to be connected, so how we can make this the resource blocks and resource zones? That requires some technical discussions.
Yeah, well, I've got a query on that though, right? Which is because there's two, to me, there's two courses that we can take with this, right? In terms of supporting resource blocks in the composition service. One of them is to go through the standardization process within the DMTF so that this work that we need to have added, becomes part of Redfish. Is one direction, right? We do this all through the DMTF and extending the composition service. And I think Jeff Hillen sort of hinted a little bit of that on the call, right? That they thought of this a bit, but they hadn't actually developed it. And we need to go back to them and tell them that we want it, right? And then work with them on it. All the other direction is that we don't do that and we build that functionality into ODIM as part of the ODIM project. So northbound, the user would see the Redfish service, but the learning of the resource blocks and syncing that with the actual resources is all sort of kept internal within ODIM. So, and do you agree with that analysis? And what's the feeling on the call then?
Yeah, no, I agree, Martin. I do think it's probably better to, if they're willing to take it in the MTF, to try to push it there and make it part of the standard.
I think that, my view, and I kind of tend to agree with that, Janice, right? But I think that maybe the thing for us to do is, because, as I recall, right, and I think Jeff Hillen said about this before, they know there's a bit of a gap there, right, within the composition service. So I think that he'd be very happy to get on a call with us and discuss how that could be implemented, as part of Redfish. So maybe before we go and do development purely within the ODIM project, we set up a call with Jeff and just see how this could be standardized through DMTF potentially, right? And if that's going to be a too difficult, too long, whatever, then we can discuss it afterwards. But at least, let's sort of round out with Jeff what that could potentially look like.
Could we define here, just for the note taking, is that exactly what is it that we look to push into the standard as far as resource blocks that are not there today?
How would we describe that? It's basically synchronizing what's in, because essentially we want to proxy resource blocks, right?
Proxy resource blocks.
Well, I don't know. Look, I'm not developing this, so hey, my guys, if you want to.
Yeah, from my understanding, it is kind of building the resource blocks and associating with the resource zone. How can we identify the resources?
As per the white paper that is published, the resource zones are like So the resource blocks that are reported in the same resource zone are allowed to compose together. So basically, my understanding is that the resources that are actually interconnected are being kept kept under the same resource zone. So as a clients, how would we know that which are like having the interconnection, like which computer system is connected to which fabric or drive, or how we will be able to map that?
So you say resource blocks that are in the same resource zone can be composed.
Yes, that's what I'm reading through the now also I'm reading.
But that's the old white paper that said that, right? But that hasn't changed.
No, that hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my question is like, my understanding is like, okay, I kept a couple of one computer system resource block and one drive resource block and all. But if I have to put them in the same zone, how would I know that they are actually really interconnected as a hardware or not?
Yeah.
So that zone, the resource zone, is what ties those resource blocks together, so you know what you can compose. Yeah. But how are those resource zones set up to start with?
Yeah, that's my question. Like, see, I do not know like physical hardware, how it is internally connected or not.
So this is what I was trying to get at when I was asking all the questions, right? And what they basically said was it's implementation specific. So how you actually set up the zones, how you group things together within the zones, that's implementation specific. They didn't define any public interfaces, which is odd, because if there's no consistent way to handle that, I don't think we'll have interoperability.
Yeah, and that's the piece that's the piece that we could try and add. Right?
Yes, we can. Right. I was going exactly there, Martin. Right. It's something we can add, and this is the value of having open source activities fronting the standards work. We can propose a set of APIs that enable management of zones. Right, because the questions I was and these guys don't really worry about this stuff, but think about it, right? If I'm an IT shop and I have I need to be able to interoperate between different solutions, or if I'm upgrading from one solution to say an HPE solution, I want to be able to port my data. I want to be able to make sure that whatever I've defined once is not going to get lost and will require weeks of work to get it to set up in a new implementation, right? So if you're going to really truly talk about lack of vendor lock-in, then these interfaces have to be defined.
So those interfaces would be APIs that enable managing these zones. So that would be like adding resource blocks to them and
yes.
removing them and these
creating zones, moving zones, doing whatever. You can even tag those. I mean, there's if we start thinking about how you would orchestrate against that, there's maybe some tagging that needs to be done, but whatever, right. we can decide, what it needs to be.
But would that, sorry, just from a Redfish perspective, though, wouldn't those APIs actually end up being new kind of services, right, or functions on top of Redfish for populating resource blocks and resource zones?
Well, that's what the composition service is too.
Right? Yeah, I think the composition service would lift that framework. We'll implement those APIs.
Yeah, but they don't exist at the moment, though. They're expected to be there.
Yeah, so that's where, I mean, the thing is, it seems like what Alex is describing is that DMTF expects those zones and resource blocks to all be set up from the get-go by whoever the vendor is. What we are trying to accomplish here is some interoperability among vendors. So we need a more flexible and dynamic way of managing these things.
Yeah,
consistent, really.
Extend the composition service so that you can have that's the word I was looking for, actions. right? So that you can have a redfish action to add resource blocks and resource zones.
Yes, yeah, that's what we are like asking. But as of now, it is not there in the specification.
Right. So that's it, Jonas, right?
Yeah, I agree, Martin, with the action approach, but whether or not that will fly, that's something that the DMTF will push.
This is why we need to get a call going with Jeff Hillen then to see.
Yeah, but perhaps not only Jeff.
Yeah,
I mean, do we
Michael
want it?
and all of them.
Yeah, exactly. John Haas and these guys, right?
Yeah,
Whoever is in the task force.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm saying, we must have Jeff Hillen on it because he seemed, from what I recall, you guys are on the phone as well, right?
Yeah.
He said this has been discussed before, and in my view is I think he's actually quite keen to do it. I don't think he'll push back.
Yeah. So let's get a call. If we could get it this week, that would be good. We have some preparations for next week's event, unfortunately, but do you want to push it out 2 weeks, or should we see if we can get it this week?
I think this week will be tricky, knowing Dell, because he pushed back last time. But I mean, worst case.
The other thing they also said was that, you guys can go and use some sort of, I don't know, a feature request thing that the DMTF has. So we could have Musu or somebody here write it up.
We could write it up. You're right, and put it in the forum. Maybe that's
and then we just get on their back and say, hey, have you guys seen this?
Yeah, maybe that's what we need to do, because the first thing they're going to do if we ask for this call is, well, have you not submitted this by the official channel?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably I will do it today itself. Like,
do you know where to do that? Sorry.
I was told to put it on the DMTF like Redfish forum.
Can we kind of can we agree on what these interfaces need to look like? And then we
I think we can make this very detailed, or we can make it a little bit higher level and see their reactions. I don't know, which do you think is best?
I think in the first instance we should propose it at a high level in terms of requesting additional actions to add resource blocks and resource zones.
Exactly.
Dynamically from a client, right? And if we can, and then how exactly that's, so if they accept that, then the next thing that they're going to want are mock-ups.
Yeah, right? And then we can go and do the mock-ups. Yeah. No, I agree. I think that's so. Perhaps most of the first thing you just do is that we want to have APIs that enable management of zones and resource blocks, and then you can mention some higher level things like creating zones, removing zones, adding resource blocks to a zone, removing resource blocks from a zone, and so on, right?
Yeah.
Well, I think that the DMTF seemed quite keen on replacing, patching and things with actions, right? So
but I mean, the APIs to do these operations could be implemented through actions, of course.
Through actions, yeah. But that's the way I would describe it. Maybe when we're putting it in is implementing new actions in the composition service for adding resource blocks and resource zones.
Yeah, sure. I'll start that.
Okay. Do you know, is this then an issue create, Martin, or is it? How do you get this? I mean, they mentioned something.
Yeah, they did.
Do you know, Mutu? Or?
Must be an issue, you'd have thought.
I don't know really. I'm sorry. I have never posted any questions there in the forum. In the meeting with the DMTF people, they suggested to go on to post a item there. It maybe when we start adding it have options like whether it's a feature request or like it's a bug or something like that. I will check that part.
I'm gonna ping Jeff as well. If I get something back, I will send you that, Musu.
Yeah, sure.
I would still think that we need to have, for context, right? Because we only had a couple of people from DMTF Redfish on the call. just to make the discussion a little bit more productive or progress it a little further, maybe we can run it by the same folks that were in the original meeting first. And at least, if we can get them to nod their heads when we present it to a larger audience, then it'll be easier, right? Because, there were some people missing in that meeting intentionally, right? But, those people are very influential in that redfish composition track. Like Rich Bruner from VMware, right? And there were a few other people who always chime in.
Yeah, they're not part of the task force that I've seen, though, are they? Or are they very quiet?
They could. Well, Rich is not known to be quiet, so.
There you go. So I think anyhow they were pretty clear with us that instead of calling these meetings, you should log these things. Even though I kind of suggested that this was a good initial meeting, and from here on we could use that functionality. So I think calling a new meeting might be counterproductive, right?
I don't think it'll do any harm at all to have it in there, and at least we've done what they've asked. And then if we need clarification or it's not progressing, because I'm assuming, I don't know how quickly people would respond to it, but if they don't, then we can set up the meeting.
So what's the mitigation plan if they say no, for whatever reason?
Well, we're going to have to look at how we could implement it through ODIM, but ideally, I'm not sure if they would say no, though. I think that, I have a feeling that I'll be surprised if they say no, given that I think that Jeff Itton, who's very influential on this, is definitely not against doing this.
Right.
But, let's see.
Yeah. I'm asking Jeff here. Let's see if it comes back. I just want to know if we create an issue. They might have some different mechanism, perhaps a mailing list or something, but I think
I'm seeing in the Redfish forum, I'm seeing like there are like Redfish specification protocol schema. There are different boards, and within the board there are options to raise a feature request.
Yeah, he's typing back. Okay, so a feature request, is that a Git issue then, do you think, or is it like a form you fill out?
Issue.
There are different boards related, like protocol and specification, CSDL, JSON schema, work in progress, profiles, and feature requests under the Redfish specification protocol schema.
So here is Jeff's feedback. If it comes from a single company, just create an issue. If it comes from ODIM officially, it needs to come back through the feedback portal. So we should probably do the feedback portal unless we say AMI is requesting this. But I think ODIM is requesting this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all of us, really.
Yeah. I'm asking him for a link to the feedback portal.
Yeah, let's do it that way.
Okay, so if I get that, I will send that to you, Musa. Was there anything else regarding the composition service that is unclear, or that you feel that you want to make a decision on, and you want our input, or what do you, or was this the thing?
At this moment, this is the blocking thing. Divya, do you have any other questions or any other?
No, so far that is the thing I need to know. Like if I am keeping a couple of resource blocks, I can create resource block depending on the type of the resource block, like computer system resource block or the a storage resource block like that. But to create a resource zone, I need to know how they are connected in the hardware side, like so that only those things that can be composable, I can keep it in a zone.
Mm.
And
That
one
if I get to know that answer, then probably that helps me like to go further ahead.
Yeah.
one other thing is like the composition request need to be sent to that resource collection. For example, if you're composing a system, we need to send the request to the computer system collection. So our ODIM computer system collection should have the post method implemented for this, taking care of this. So that we need to, once the basic, the composition service building blocks are ready, then the next step we may need to discuss about those things.
Mm.
So basically composition service will keep all the resource blocks and just send the request to the appropriate collection. If it is a computer system composition, then it is sending a request to the computer system collection to as a post call to compose a system, and the system will be created with the type system type equal to composed or something like that. The same way, if we build a storage composition, then we may need to send it to a storage collection or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah, and eventually we do the same with the fabric as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, for example, I have this question like currently when I'm composing a node like of that one, I want to associate to a system the fabric switch, like it can be a Ethernet fabric. In the HPE case, I'm trying to the address pool and VLANs are there, right? It
Yeah.
can be a Ethernet fabric switch or NVMe or fabric switch or PCIe fabric switch or something like that, right? So how I can be able to map the fabrics to the system, like how I can actually connect the end. If I'm connecting the endpoint means like what exactly is happening. I am doing the zone patch operation and putting the endpoint in the zone, but how I can connect to that to a computer system. That's what I wanted to understand.
I
Where is
got
the
from
mapping? Where is the
yeah, sorry.
mapping? Like, is it the from the computer system Ethernet interface? Is that the LAN number is going to be the same as like address pool's LAN number? How I know that? Okay, this address pool is connected to this computer system or can be connected to this computer system.
Yeah, understood. So the way that it's set up is that there is a patch operation from a northbound client to connect um, each each Ethernet interface is there is a link from the so from switch so fabrics switch ports, right? You know, that path within the port schema there is a connected ports property. So you have a link under there which would point you to the Ethernet interface on you know, on the computer system, right?
Okay.
So that would give you then the link from the top of rack switch port to the NIC on the you know, the computer system, and then eventually, you know, so ILO on HP's case doesn't support network port, but when it does, then we'd have a link then from, you know, the switch port to network port. So if you assume then, as part of what you're doing, that a northbound client in the first instance would populate, you know, is going to patch each of the Ethernet switch ports with the switch port to, you know, computer NIC association, right? Then what happens is the northbound client, whenever they set up an endpoint, right, they already know then that, you know, that particular NIC would be part, you know, Ethernet NIC would be part of that endpoint, and then the endpoint would have a link then to the server NIC, sorry, to the switch NIC, you know, the switch port, so that when that's pushed down to the fabric manager would have a set of endpoints and all of the switch ports that are associated with those endpoints. And if those endpoints are all part of the same zone of endpoints, then you would bridge the traffic between them, right? And then the information that you'd need, like a VLAN or whatever, would be linked from that zone of endpoints to the address pool that's associated to it, right? So you have an address pool with a link in to a zone of endpoints that would have the VLAN tags, etc., that you would need for that endpoint, IP addressing, subnet or whatever, and you'd know that all of those endpoints that are part of the same zone of endpoints would be in the same in the same subnet, right? So
is there any document that explains this, like how the interconnection? Because I understand,
yeah,
but if I do not actually go through it and mentally make a picture of it, I can't understand that.
Yeah, that's right. Let me send you a document that describes that in detail, because I know it's quite complex to explain over the phone, but there's some
Right.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah, if the document has the pictures and
Yeah.
the explanation, that creates as better understanding. Like this question, I had it when I was developing the fabrics itself. Like how a system is associated with a fabrics endpoint. Like if I patch the zone, then how it is, like I would know that this is connected. This VLAN is connected to this particular system.
Yeah.
Can I ask a stupid question? Are we assuming a single system of record when it comes to the underlying data model, or are we going to keep snippets of everything in different services and then try to synchronize everything as operations are being orchestrated? Like, where is the basic information like that binds it all together going to be kept? Like Redfish defines a single information model that needs to be somehow implemented. So we've never closed on the issue of, do we have a model manager service that knows how to keep the entire thing coherent, and then other services just use it to update the information or create new instances of things, or when things get discovered, they can be put in there? Or are we really talking about a separate data model inside each service? The reason I'm asking is because as you guys are talking, I'm just trying to figure it out. Like, where is a system of record for this? How many different entities do I need? My service has to go talk to, let's say, in order to figure out what the world looks like. And how do I know that it's correct and in sync?
Well, I don't think the spec is defining that, right?
Well, but this is another issue we have, right? Well, the spec will not define it. Redfish is only concerned with the information model, which is an abstract representation of data, of information elements and relationships between them, right? They will not specify the gory details of how that information model is encoded. We're using whichever way we want to do it. Nor will it say that it has to be a singular entity as opposed to a distributed database. I don't know, but somehow we need to be able to go to one definitive source of truth and say, show me the topology. Aha, now I'm going to connect this newly composed service to this VLAN.
Yeah.
Or how would even basic replenishment be done? Like I'm adding capacity to my environment. I want it to be discovered somehow. I need to inject this into that model so that it's kind of like how do I add stuff to the composition zones on the fly? And if I do, how do I discover what needs to be added where? Right?
Yeah, when we implement RSD based pod manager, there we see like the similar like a relationship between the computer system and the switch and the underlying resources like drives or like
RSD had a coherent data model that that was there. That's what RSD did, and I don't know how you get away from doing that here. Forget RSD. I just think logically you need a system of record, right? Otherwise, we're going to be all over the place. I'll be asking the fabric manager for one piece of data. I'm going to be asking composition manager for another piece of
Other
data.
piece of data.
And how do I know if they're synchronized?
Well, I guess, yeah, that's the other thing. I mean, I was just chatting with Jeff here. If you look at the zones, there is a zone collection, right? And that you can, and you can insert a new zone there. So that's doable. You cannot delete a zone though, so that's weird.
Oh, that's a.
And in a zone, you have a resource block collection as well. And if you look at that, sorry.
No. Go ahead.
Yeah, if you look at that resource blocks collection, they're deletable, insertable, and updatable are all set to false. So that means that in a zone, you cannot add and remove resources. So this is a problem, right?
This is a big problem, right? Because you're going to keep on running and keep wanting to add additional capacity to the zones or remove old capacity or broken capacity.
Yeah, you get new resources in, and you want to add them to zones so people can
I mean,
compose
there's
with
no
them.
way you can just get it right the first time. Somebody will make a mistake.
No,
and
you
then
will
you
buy
can't
more
undo
hardware.
it.
You will buy more hardware after a while.
Exactly, right? And this is the part that I kind of laugh at, because to some extent the guys who are defining these standards, they're kind of divorced from the practical.
No, what they came from, Alex, was a bladed environment where you had an enclosure and you knew from the very beginning exactly what hardware was in there. There was no, oh, we have 16 slots. I can't buy blades.
Yeah, but if they're not, yeah, sure. I mean, I understand where they came from, but even in the blade environment, you can add new blades and new trays, new chassis, whatever. You can always do that.
Yeah, you can add them, but they were already there as far as resources. They might not be present, right? But yeah, so in any case, this needs to move. We need to move away from this. And I think, Musa, when you write this thing for them at the portal, and I actually want to send you that link. And perhaps you can look at the zone collection and also the resource block collection, so you know what the shortcomings are. I think there are plenty of them.
Can we review what's going to be posted and just make sure that we're all on the same page?
That's what I'm also planning. Like I will compile the kind of details to be posted and present it to this forum. Maybe we can review and edit wherever needed. Then we'll publish it to them so that it will be very clear for them to.
Yeah, this way when we show up to the meeting, we can all be in agreement on what we need to get done.
Should we review that then next Tuesday? I don't know if we actually have a meeting next Tuesday because we have the event then as well. And
yeah.
It might. We can review it by email as well if you guys prefer. No enforced way forward there, but I say if we have a meeting on Tuesday, let's review it then. Otherwise, Muthu, perhaps you can send out on TSC what you plan on. Otherwise, it will take 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, I think we probably have to cancel Tuesday's call because we've got this event. I think we've got some conflicts with the bridge as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's go ahead. I was planning on talking to everybody here about canceling both calls next week.
Yeah,
that's true.
Okay.
I'll start a mail thread with all of you guys here in this in forum or in our TSC. Is there somewhere I can post this in our Confluence portal?
Yeah, you can just create your own page there under. Perhaps you go under the proposal and link it from there, or whatever you want to do, Milton. Feel free, knock yourself out, and then send out on the TSC mailing list a link to that. Right.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, guys.
And the other thing we have to settle on is the session for next week's event. How we're going to deal with that. So, Alex, are you able to send me that? Yeah, the ONAP piece, ONAP session. Yeah, whether we're modifying it or deleting it or whatever. Okay, Alex, can you forward me that email or loop me into that email, because I don't believe I received it or it was on the
Yeah,
thread.
let me do that. I didn't mean to exclude anyone. I just replied to the original list and added one other person because I was just looking.
Oh no, not a problem, not a problem. I just want to make sure that I may chime in there if we, just to make sure we're aligned properly. That's all.
Yeah, I will do that. I can send that to everybody on the TSC.
Sounds good.
Okay. Good deal. Anything else for today?
Just the document. Are you going to send me the document? So whenever I get some time, I'll read up about how the interlinking of the
fabrics.
And, fabrics is done with the system.
I'm just sending that now.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, no worries.
Right.
All right.
Nothing else. We can end a little early, allowing us for some few minutes before next meeting.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you all.
Thank you, everybody. Bye-bye.